Hi, I'm Kim Rayner, and I want to welcome you to episode 8 of All About Spirits Life After Cancer. And today's segment is called How to Create the Life You Want, One Segment at a Time. And how I came up with this topic as I was trying to figure out what is it that I want to do for this week's topic. I went back to my journals from 2007 and I started looking at what was going on for me around Thanksgiving as I figured, getting ready to go into the holidays. I just finished Thanksgiving. So what do I want this topic to be about? And I was kind of surprised when I found that there was really nothing in my journal about the holidays. The stuff that was in my journal had to do with the changes that were going on in my body, and it had to do with the people in my life and how they were reacting to me and how I was reacting to them and what was going on for me around that. So the first thing I'll mention is that I found that really interesting because in hindsight, looking back, I would have thought, oh my goodness, the holidays would have been the big thing that was on my mind. So that was really interesting for me. So as I walked through the process and I started to look at things, I started reading about what was going on in my environment. And, the first thing that really struck me was that I was really focused on the changes that were going on in my body. And there were a lot of them, There were changes that you could see. There were changes that were really obvious to people. I had just finished my 14th round of chemotherapy, so I didn't have any hair, and I didn't have any eyebrows, and I didn't have any eyelashes. So there was clearly and obviously things that were going on in my life that were really easy to see. And then there were changes that were going on in my life that weren't necessarily so easy to see, but they were absolutely just as real. One of them, and people knew about those changes too. One of them was that, I had a huge incision in my belly, so I couldn't stand up straight. I hadn't worn a pair of pants for months. All I was wearing was dresses. And, everybody knew that I had had a hysterectomy and that my ovaries were taken out. So there were changes that were obvious, there were changes that were known, and then there was this group of changes that were like not so obvious, and in some ways they almost felt like secrets to me. And those were things like, I had reconstructive surgery that people don't know that you have reconstructive surgery unless you've had the surgery. And I had, I had neuropathy, which was a side effect of the chemo that I was going through. So there were changes that were going on in that arena too, and people just didn't necessarily know about that. And then there was the stuff about my family, my friends, the people who were in my life and who were interacting with me, and I was struggling with my relationships with them. So that's really what brought me to this whole topic. There is a spiritual principle that says what we pay attention to, what we focus on, is what gets bigger. So how do I navigate through that process? How do I, when I know, when I'm going through my cancer treatment, what I'm focused on is a lot of fear and a lot of stuff that is not necessarily pointing me in the direction that I want to be pointing in. So if I'd have known about segment intending, and if I'd have known really about this spiritual principle at the time that I was going through my cancer treatment, I probably would have done things differently, but I didn't. So I share it with you now because since I've learned about it, I probably have used it, in the high hundreds of times, maybe even close to 1,000 times. And this principle or this practice, it's called segment intending. And it's based on the spiritual principle, like I said, that what you focus on gets bigger. And there's lots of spiritual practices that talk about that. Christianity talks about it. Buddhism talks about it, metaphysical practices talk about it. So it's not like it's a religious thing. It's just the idea that what I pay attention to gets bigger. So how do I start to slow myself down? And again, here we are, right? Slowing ourselves down. How do I slow myself down and start to pay attention to what I'm paying attention to? And that's really what this practice is all about. So in my in my healing process since my cancer treatment, I used segment intending, and I identified segments as little chunks of time where I'm getting ready to start to do something new. So in this case, I'm doing this live broadcast. So my segment is, I intend for this broadcast to be helpful to people. And I intend to be able to share information in a clear, concise, and accurate way. And that's really helpful, right? To be able to say, okay, this is really what I want to accomplish here. So what do I do? What do I do with that when I'm looking at it in the context of my body, or I'm looking at it in the context of relationships and how I interact and deal with people? So if I was going to start to talk about this, or start doing the segment intending practice around my health, right? If I was getting ready to go to a doctor's appointment, I would say, let's say I'm going for chemo, right? I intend for this chemo procedure to go easily and effortlessly. I intend for it to be a healing process. I intend to have the cancer treatment target the cells that are rapidly multiplying. I intend to have my treatment go with no complications, to have it be easy, to have the needles go in easily, to have the phlebotomist who is checking my blood be able to draw my blood and to be able to process my blood easily and effortlessly. So I would set the dynamic to say, this is the way I'd like this to work. And then as I'm doing that, right, I'm raising my vibration rather than sitting and being in fear, rather than freaking out about what's going on, rather than worrying about what it is and how things are going to happen, right? I'm setting my vibration in a place that says, yeah, I'm going to be successful at this. This is going to work for me. And then the universe or God or whatever is going to find a matching vibration out there, and it's going to align those things. And by doing that, I start to create the future for myself that I want. I start to project myself out into the future, and I find that matching vibration, and things start to change for me. I know once I learned about this, it was probably 2.5, 3 years after my initial cancer treatment and after I was done with chemo. And I have used it for a lot of things. I use it when I have to interact with somebody that might be a comfortable interaction, right? Or an uncomfortable interaction. I might lay it out and say, okay, I am preparing to talk to, my partner or my mother or my sibling or my son or somebody, right? I'm preparing to talk to somebody. And I want our communication to be open-hearted. I want my information to be communicated clearly and concisely. I want to share the information in a way that they clearly understand what it is that I'm trying to communicate. I want them to be able to be free to communicate with me. I want to hear what they have to say. I want our hearts to be connected. I want to be open-hearted. I want to share the information. And I want us both to feel better about our interaction and our relationship at the end of the conversation. So I would lay out the segment intending that way when I'm ready to interact with somebody. And I can tell you that I have used this in so many different ways since I discovered it and learned about it. I use it in my work world. I use it when I'm interacting with people. I use it at the grocery store. I use it when I am getting ready to get in my car, right? It can be something as simple as I'm preparing to go drive somewhere, and I'm intending for all of the people on the road with me to be courteous and mindful, for them to be paying attention to what they're doing. And by doing that, I have literally created, segment by segment, a really good life for myself. I've had the opportunity and the ability to say, okay, in this chunk of time, this is what I want my vibration to be. And somehow or another, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it aligns that information. It aligns that energy. And I have created a really good life for myself. Even though sometimes things get troubling, they get hard, I have challenges, but I still can use this practice, this segment intending, to be able to work my way out of it. So if you have an issue that you are struggling with or that you would like to practice this with, I invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, because the connection between your head and your hand and your heart is really, really powerful. And there's a way that we align our energy and we align our vibration when we start when we start writing things down. It gives it a concreteness. It gives it a realness. So take a second and think about what it is that you want. And just by thinking about it, you start to align yourself with that vibrational energy. And then write about how, if you could draw a perfect world, write about what you would like this to look like. And you'll be amazed. Start paying attention. Keep track of it in your journal and see how it works for you. I can tell you that this is a tool that I use all the time, and it works really well for me. So if you have thoughts or comments, or you're not sure how to make this work, feel free to go ahead and write comments at the bottom of the post, and I will absolutely answer any questions that you have. If your comments feel like they need to be a little more private, send me a private message on Facebook, or you can always email me at kim@allaboutspirit.net. And I hope that you take a minute to actually practice segment intending so you can see how beneficial it really is, and how the impact that it can have on your life and how it can change things. So until we actually have a chance to talk again, I hope that life treats you well, and I hope that you treat life as well. I hope you treat life well as well. Thanks for being with me today, and have a great day.